6 months had passed since the day everything changed. The dead moon was gone, but its absence had created something new. Hope. Captain Wu Jin stood on the observation deck of Proxima Station, watching ships come and go. But these were not warships anymore. They were construction vessels, science ships, and diplomatic transports. The galaxy was learning to work together. "Captain," called a familiar voice behind him. Wu Jin turned to see Ambassador Young Ho approaching. The new human diplomat had arrived 3 months ago to take over the formal negotiations. Wu Jin's job as Earth's first contact was finished. "Any news from the Council?" Wu Jin asked. Young Ho smiled. "The Altarians have agreed to join the terraforming project. That makes 12 species committed to the program." "And the Vraxians?" "Admiral Tae Ho has been replaced. The new leadership is more interested in building than conquering." Wu Jin nodded. He was not surprised. The old admiral had been a good soldier, but soldiers were not always good at making peace. What about Tae Ho himself? "Retired to his homeworld. I hear he is writing his memoirs." "That should be interesting reading." Young Ho laughed. "I think he is calling it The Day the War Ended Before It Began." Through the station's big windows, they could see a construction site in the distance. Alien and human ships were working together to build humanity's first permanent embassy in Confederation space. It was a symbol of the new relationship between Earth and the galaxy. "The first terraforming test is scheduled for next week," Young Ho said. "Dr. Yoonji thinks we can create a small planet in the Kepler system." "Will it work?" "She seems confident. The same technology that destroyed the moon can compress cosmic dust into a new world. The process is just reversed." Wu Jin watched a human ship dock with the station. It was the supply vessel New Dawn, bringing materials for the embassy construction. A year ago, human ships had been forbidden in Confederation space. Now, they were welcome guests. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we had chosen differently," Wu Jin said. "You mean if we had kept the weapon secret? Or if we had used it to conquer instead of defending?" Young Ho was quiet for a moment. "I think the galaxy would be a much darker place." "Maybe. Or maybe some other species would have developed the same technology and made different choices." "Do you regret what we did?" Wu Jin considered the question carefully. "No, but I do think about the responsibility it brings." A chime sounded through the station's communication system. "Attention, all personnel. The weekly council session will begin in 1 hour." Young Ho checked his watch. "I should go prepare. The Meridians want to discuss expanding the cultural exchange program. Good luck." After the ambassador left, Wu Jin remained on the observation deck. He was thinking about a conversation he had had with Counselor Ara the week before. She had asked him a simple question: "What happens when other species develop weapons like yours?" It was a good question. Earth's technology would not remain unique forever. Other civilizations would learn to manipulate gravitational fields. Other species would gain the power to destroy worlds. "Captain Wu Jin?" came a voice from behind him. He turned to see Engineer He Jin approaching. She had stayed at the station to help with the technology transfer program. "Engineer, how are the demonstrations going?" "Very well. The Zephyrian scientists are quick learners. They understand the basic principles already. And security? We are only teaching them the terraforming applications. The weapon capabilities remain classified." Wu Jin nodded. Earth had decided to share the creative potential of their technology while keeping its destructive power secret. It was a delicate balance. "Hiya, Jin. Do you think we made the right choice?" The engineer looked surprised by the question. "About sharing the technology?" "About everything. The demonstration, the ultimatum, the peace treaty." Hyejin walked to the window and looked out at the busy space lanes. "Captain, do you see those ships out there?" "Yes. 6 months ago they would have been warships coming to destroy Earth. Now they are construction crews and scientists and diplomats. If that is not the right choice, I don't know what is." Before Wu Jin could reply, another voice interrupted them. "Captain?" They turned to see Counselor Ara approaching. The Zephyrian diplomat had become a frequent visitor to the human sections of the station. Counselor, what brings you here? I wanted to give you some news. The Council has voted. On what? Your proposal for a galactic defense treaty? Wu Jin felt his heart speed up. The treaty was Earth's plan to prevent future wars. It would create a joint force to protect all worlds from outside threats, while preventing any single species from becoming too powerful. What was the result? Ara smiled. Unanimous approval. All member species have agreed to the terms. Wu Jin felt a wave of relief wash over him. Even the Vraxians? Especially the Vraxians. General Kyung-soo gave a speech about the importance of cooperation over conquest. Engineer Hye-jin laughed. That must have been interesting to hear. It was, said Ara. He said that humans had taught the galaxy an important lesson. True strength comes from knowing when not to use your power. The three of them stood together watching the ships move through space. Somewhere among those vessels was the Perseverance, returning to Earth after completing its historic mission. Counselor, said Wu Jin, may I ask you something? Of course. Are you afraid of us? Of what humans might do in the future? Ara considered the question carefully. Yes, she said finally. But not the way I was 6 months ago. What do you mean? 6 months ago I was afraid that humans would use their power to hurt us. Now I'm afraid that humans might lose their wisdom and become like the rest of us. Like the rest of you? Greedy, aggressive, willing to use violence to get what we want. Wu Jin understood. You are afraid we might become conquerors. Yes, power has a way of changing people. Look at the Vraxians. They were peaceful once before they became the strongest species in their region. Look at the Altarians. They used to be explorers before they became empire builders. Engineer Hye-jin nodded. That is why we built safeguards into our ships. What kind of safeguards? Asked Ara. The gravitational cascade initiators require approval from Earth Command before they can be used as weapons. No single ship captain can decide to destroy a world. What if Earth Command becomes corrupt? Then the other species in the defense treaty have the right to intervene, said Wu Jin. We wrote that into the agreement. Power must be balanced always. Ara looked impressed. You have thought of everything. We hope so. But humans are not perfect. We make mistakes like everyone else. The difference, said Hye-jin, is that we try to learn from our mistakes. A new ship appeared in the distance. It was larger than most with the curved lines of Altarian design. As they watched, it began docking procedures with the station. The first joint exploration mission, said Ara. Humans and Altarians working together to map the outer galaxy. How many species are participating? Asked Wu Jin. 7 so far. The Meridians want to join next month. It was amazing how quickly things had changed. 6 months ago, the galaxy had been preparing for war. Now it was preparing for exploration and cooperation. Captain, said Ara, I have one more piece of news. Yes? The Council has decided to rename this station. What will it be called? Perseverance Station, in honor of the ship that changed everything. Wu Jin felt a lump in his throat. The little ship that had carried such a terrible burden would now be remembered as a symbol of hope. There is going to be a ceremony next week, Ara continued. All the member species will send representatives. President Su-jin herself is coming from Earth. For what? To sign the final peace treaty and to launch the first terraforming project. Engineer Hye-jin clapped her hands together. We are really going to build a new world. The first of many, I hope, said Ara. As the three of them talked, none of them noticed the small figure watching from the shadows. General Kyung-soo had retired from military service, but he still visited the station sometimes. He listened to their conversation with interest. The old Vraxian warrior had learned many things in the past 6 months. He had learned that strength without wisdom was meaningless. He had learned that conquest without purpose was hollow. Most importantly, he had learned that sometimes the bravest thing to do was to choose peace over war. Later that day, Captain Wu Jin made his way to the Station's communication center. He had a call to make to Earth. Captain Wu Jin to Earth Command, he said into the transmitter. Earth Command here, go ahead, Captain. Mission complete. The galaxy is at peace. Confirmed, Captain. Orders? Wu Jin looked out the window at the ships moving through space, human ships and alien ships working together toward a common goal. Orders are to come home, he said. The Perseverance has done its job. Understood. Welcome home, Captain. As Wu Jin ended the transmission, he realized that home was no longer just Earth. Home was a galaxy where humans and aliens could work together. Home was a future where children would grow up without fearing war. The human ship that had carried the power to destroy worlds had instead carried something more powerful, the hope for peace. And sometimes, that was all the universe needed. 1 ship, 1 demonstration, 1 choice to build instead of destroy. It had been enough to change everything. Captain Lee Dong-hyun stared at the broken mining station through his ship's front window. The metal structure floated in space like a wounded animal. Half of its lights were dead. The other half flickered like dying stars. Sir, we're getting that distress signal again, said Officer Kim Hana from her seat. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel. Same message over and over. Dong-hyun nodded. The message was simple but scary. Help us. They're eating everyone. Please help. Then silence for 10 seconds, then the same words again. How long since the last communication? Dong-hyun asked. 47 hours, sir, Hana replied. But the automated distress beacon is still working. The mining station was called Kepler 442b. It was far from Earth, farther than most people ever traveled. 200 miners worked there, digging rare metals from asteroids. Now something had gone wrong. Something bad. Scanners show no life signs, reported Lieutenant Park Ji-hoon. But there's strange energy readings from inside the station. Dong-hyun felt cold fear in his stomach. Strange energy readings usually meant bad things in space. Very bad things. Prepare the boarding team, he ordered. Full battle gear. Whatever happened here, we need to be ready. 20 minutes later, Dong-hyun led his team through the station's airlock. The inside was dark except for emergency lights. Red lights painted everything the color of blood. Their boots made loud sounds on the metal floor. Stay close, Dong-hyun whispered into his radio. Watch everything. They moved through empty hallways. Computer screens showed normal mining reports from 2 days ago. Coffee cups sat on tables, with the coffee still inside, now frozen solid. Personal pictures of families smiled at them from work desks, but there were no people. Sir, called Sergeant Cho Min-young from ahead. You need to see this. Dong-hyun hurried to where she stood. On the floor was a human shape made of white dust. The dust looked like a person lying down, but there was no body. Just the shape of where someone had been. What could do this? Whispered Lieutenant Shin Yun-ho. Before anyone could answer, they heard a sound, a wet sliding noise from somewhere deeper in the station, like something big moving through water. Weapons ready, Dong-hyun ordered. They followed the sound through more hallways. More white dust shapes covered the floors. Hundreds of them. The dust shapes showed people running, falling, trying to hide. All that was left was white powder that used to be human beings. The sound got louder. They reached the main mining area, a huge room with tall ceilings. Giant machines for cutting asteroids filled the space, and moving between the machines were the things that had killed everyone. Dong-hyun had never seen anything like them. They looked like giant spiders made of black metal and red flesh. Each one was as big as a car. They had too many legs, all ending in sharp points. Their bodies pulsed like beating hearts. When they moved, they made that wet sliding sound. Vortani hunters, breathed Lieutenant Park. I've heard stories, but I never thought they were real. The creatures were eating. Not food, but something else. They pressed their bodies against the white dust shapes and seemed to drink something invisible. Energy, maybe. Life force. Whatever made people human. We need to leave, whispered Sergeant Cho. Now. But then they heard something else. A human voice, very quiet, coming from deeper in the mining tunnels. Help me, please, Is someone there? Dongyun's team looked at each other. One person was still alive. One person had survived when 200 others had died. We can't leave them, Dongyun said. Sir, those things will kill us all, Park whispered back. Then we better be very quiet. They moved carefully around the edge of the big room. The Vortani hunters were busy eating energy from the dust shapes. They didn't notice the humans sneaking past. The voice came from the deepest mining tunnel. They climbed down metal ladders, going deeper and deeper into the asteroid. The tunnel was full of pipes and cables. Water dripped from somewhere, making small sounds that seemed very loud. Hello? The voice called again. Please, I know someone is there. I can hear you moving. They found him in a small room full of machines that cleaned the metal they dug up. A young man sat behind one of the big machines. His clothes were dirty and torn. His face was thin from not eating. But he was alive. My name is Kang Minho, he said when he saw them. I'm a scientist. I study alien life forms. Thank God you came. How are you still alive? Donghyun asked. Those things upstairs killed everyone else. Minho pointed at the machines around them. These machines give off radiation. Strange radiation from the metals we mine here. It hides me from the hunters. They can't smell my life energy through it. How long have you been hiding here? 3 days. I ran here when the attack started. I've been too scared to leave. Minho's hands shook as he talked, but I wasn't alone down here. What do you mean? Minho looked around nervously. There are others, not human. They helped me. They brought me food and water. They showed me safe paths through the station. Before Dongyun could ask more questions, they heard a new sound, not the wet sliding of the hunters. This was different, like wind chimes made of crystal, very soft and musical. They're here, Minho whispered. From the shadows came small creatures that looked like they were made of living crystal. They were no bigger than house cats, but they walked on 2 legs like tiny people. Their bodies were clear like glass, but light moved inside them in beautiful patterns. When they moved, they made that soft musical sound. These are Kelhari, Minho said. They're refugees. They've been running from the Vortani for a very long time. One of the crystal beings came close to Dongyun. It reached out with a small hand and touched his arm. Suddenly, images filled his mind. He saw space battles. He saw planets covered in white dust. He saw the Kelhari running and hiding, always running, as the Vortani hunters followed them across the stars. The images stopped. The small creature stepped back and made soft musical sounds to its friends. They want us to escape together, Minho translated. But the hunters are everywhere now. They know we're here. As if hearing him, a loud roar came from above. Then another. The Vortani hunters had found their hiding place. We need to move, Donghyun said. Now, the Kelhari leader, slightly bigger than the others, came to Minho and touched his hand. Light flowed between them and Minho's eyes went wide. They have a plan, he said. But some of them won't make it out. What plan? They're going to make noise. Draw the hunters away from our escape path. But the hunters will catch some of them. The crystal beings were already moving. They formed 2 groups. The smaller group stayed with the humans. The larger group headed toward the tunnel entrance, toward the danger. We can't let them sacrifice themselves for us, Lieutenant Park said. It's what they do, Minho said sadly. They've been sacrificing themselves to save others for centuries. It's why there are so few left. The sounds from above got louder. Metal crashed. The hunters were coming down. Go, said the Kelhari leader in a voice like singing glass. It was the first time any of them had spoken in human language. Go now. Remember us. The larger group of Kelhari ran up the tunnel, making bright flashes of light and loud musical sounds. The sounds of the hunters changed direction, following them. This way, whispered one of the remaining Kelhari. It led them through a different tunnel, one that curved around the main mining area. They could hear the battle above. Crystal music mixed with horrible roars. Sometimes the music stopped. Suddenly, each time Minho closed his eyes in pain, they reached a maintenance shaft that led directly to the outside of the station. The humans put on their spacesuits. The Kelhari didn't need them. They could survive in space for short times. As they prepared to leave, the Kelhari leader came to Minho one last time. It placed both hands on his face and light flowed between them. But this time the light didn't stop. It kept flowing for long seconds while the small creature's body grew dimmer. When it finally stepped back, the Kelhari leader was barely visible. It had given most of its life energy to Minho. "Why?" Minho asked. "Someone must remember," it whispered. "Someone must know what happened to us. What the Vortani do to peaceful species. You will remember for all of us." Then it dissolved into pure light and was gone. The remaining Kelhari helped them escape to Donghyun's ship. As they flew away, they could see the station was now completely dark. The hunters had found and killed the Kelhari who had created the diversion. But their sacrifice had worked. The humans and 3 surviving Kelhari were free. In the ship's medical bay, Minho lay unconscious. The knowledge the Kelhari leader had given him was too much for a human mind to process all at once. But even sleeping, tears ran down his face. "What did they show him?" Hana asked. Dongyun stared out at the stars. "The truth. About what's really happening out here in the galaxy. And now we have to decide what we're going to do about it." The medical machines around Kang Minho beeped softly. He had been unconscious for 3 days since they brought him to Mars Colony. Dr. Yoon Haeun checked his brain scans again and shook her head. "His mind is full of information that shouldn't be there," she told Admiral Park Sung-wan. "It's like someone poured a library into his head all at once." Admiral Park looked through the glass window at the sleeping young man. "When will he wake up?" "Soon, I think. His brain is learning to organize the new memories. But Admiral, when he wakes up, he won't be the same person who went to sleep." 3 Kelhari sat in the corner of the room. They hadn't left Minho's side since arriving at Mars. The crystal beings were the only survivors from their group. Sometimes they made soft musical sounds to each other. The sounds were always sad. Captain Lee Dong-hyun entered the medical room. "Any change?" "Look at this," Dr. Yoon said. She pointed to a brain scan on her computer. "See these bright areas? That's not human brain activity. It's something else, something alien mixed with his thoughts." "Is it dangerous?" "I don't know. I've never seen anything like it." Suddenly, Minho's eyes opened, but they weren't normal human eyes anymore. Tiny lights moved inside them like stars in a small galaxy. "The Great Consumption," he whispered. "It's coming." Dr. Yoon quickly checked his vital signs. "Minho, can you hear me? You're safe. You're on Mars." Minho sat up slowly. When he looked at the Kelhari in the corner, he spoke to them in their musical language. They answered, and tears of light fell from their crystal bodies. 47 billion, Minho said in human language. "That's how many Kelhari used to exist. Now there are maybe 2,000 left in the entire galaxy." Admiral Park stepped forward. "Minho, I'm Admiral Park. Can you tell us what you learned from the Kelhari?" Minho turned to look at him. The small lights in his eyes grew brighter. "The Vortani aren't just raiders, Admiral. They're preparing the galaxy for something much worse. They're harvesting life energy to feed something that lives in the empty space between galaxies." "What kind of something?" "The Kelhari call it the endless hunger. It's bigger than planets, maybe bigger than solar systems. Every few thousand years it comes to a new galaxy and eats everything alive." Dr. Yoon wrote notes quickly. "How do you know this?" "Because I have the memories of a Kelhari elder who lived for 1,200 years. He saw it happen to their home galaxy. He saw billions of species die while the Vortani prepared the way." Admiral Park felt cold. "How long do we have?" "The Kelhari don't think in time the way we do. But from what I can understand, maybe 50 years. Maybe less." 50 years to prepare for something that destroys entire galaxies? Minho nodded. "But that's not the worst part. The worst part is that we're not the first species the Vortani have contacted in this galaxy. They've been harvesting for 300 years already. Hundreds of species are already extinct. One of the Kalahari made soft musical sounds. Minho listened and translated. She says her name is Naya. Her people used to build cities that floated in gas-giant atmospheres. Beautiful cities that spanned entire planets. Now she's one of only 12 from her world who are still alive. Admiral Park sat down heavily. How many species are left? The Kalahari know of 17 species still fighting, maybe more that they've lost contact with, but every year the number gets smaller. What about the Kalahari themselves? Why don't they fight back? Minho spoke to Naya in her language. Her answer was long and sad. They used to fight, Minho translated. Long ago they had weapons that could destroy stars, but fighting made them become like the Vortani. They saw themselves becoming monsters, so they chose to be peaceful instead. They've been running ever since. That's not working very well for them, Dr. Yoon said. No, it's not. Admiral Park stood up. I need to call an emergency meeting of the Earth Defense Council. This changes everything. 2 hours later, the most important people in human space sat around a big table on Mars. Admiral Park had told them everything, but many still didn't believe it. You want us to start a war based on the hallucinations of one traumatized survivor? Asked Counselor Chen Wei from Earth. They're not hallucinations, Minho said. He had been allowed to attend the meeting. I can prove it. He touched a control panel, and suddenly the room filled with images. Not on screens, but floating in the air like holograms. The images showed the destruction of worlds, cities turning to white dust, entire species becoming extinct. How are you doing that? Asked Commander Cho Jiwon, a veteran soldier. Kalahari technology. It responds to thought patterns. With the elders' memories in my head, I can use some of their tools. The images changed. Now they showed maps of the galaxy with red areas spreading like a disease. Each red area was a region where all life had been harvested. This is what the galaxy looks like now, Minho explained. Red areas are dead. Yellow areas are under attack. The small blue areas are species still free. Earth is here. A tiny blue dot appeared near the edge of the galaxy. We're next, Admiral Park said quietly. Counselor Chen studied the floating map. Even if this is true, what can we do? We're one species against something that has destroyed hundreds of others. Commander Cho leaned forward. We fight. That's what humans do. The Kalahari tried fighting. Look how that worked out. The Kalahari chose to stop fighting, Minho corrected. They could have kept going, but they chose peace instead. Maybe that was noble, but it didn't save them. One of the Kalahari, an older one named Shin, began speaking. Minho listened and translated. Shin says something interesting. The Kalahari have been watching human behavior for 50 years. They've seen how we react to threats. They think we're different from them. How different? Admiral Park asked. When the Kalahari were threatened, they ran away to save their families. When humans are threatened, we attack back to save everyone else's families too. Commander Cho smiled grimly. He's got that right. Shin says that's why the Kalahari elder gave me his memories. Not just to warn us, but because he hoped we would. Do what the Kalahari couldn't. Which is what? Stop running and start fighting back. Not just for ourselves, but for everyone. The room was quiet for a long moment. Finally, Admiral Park spoke. What would we need to mount a rescue operation? Rescue operation? Counselor Chen asked. For the surviving Kalahari, and any other species still alive out there. Minho's eyes brightened. The elders' memories include the locations of Kalahari survivor groups, 17 different hideouts across the galaxy, maybe 8,000 individuals total. That's impossible, Chen said. We don't have the ships or the resources to mount operations across the entire galaxy. Then we build them, Commander Cho said. How long would it take? Dr. Yoon had been quiet, but now she spoke up. The Kalahari technology in Minho's head includes designs for faster ships, better weapons, stronger shields. If we could understand it all. I can teach you, Minho said. The knowledge is all here. I just need time to organize it properly. Admiral, Park looked around the table. I'm calling a vote. All in favor of beginning immediate preparation for a galaxy-wide rescue operation. Commander Cho raised her hand immediately. Dr. Yoon raised hers next. Slowly, other hands went up. Finally, only Counselor Chen had not voted. This is madness, he said. We'll be starting a war we can't win. Maybe, Admiral Park agreed, but we'll be starting it for the right reasons. Chen sighed and raised his hand. I just hope future humans will forgive us for what we're about to do. Minho stood up. Admiral, there's something else. The Kelhari have faster-than-light communication technology. If we can build it, we can contact the other survivor groups instantly across any distance. What do they say when you contact them? I haven't tried yet, but Shin thinks they'll be very surprised to learn that humans want to help them. Why? Because in 300 years of running and hiding, no species has ever come looking for the Kelhari. We would be the first. Admiral Park smiled. Then let's give them something to be surprised about. As the meeting ended, Minho walked to the window and looked out at the red desert of Mars. Soon, this peaceful world would become the center of the largest military operation in human history. They were going to war against an enemy that had conquered most of the galaxy. But for the first time since waking up with an alien mind full of terrible knowledge, Minho felt hope. Humans might be small and weak compared to the Vortani, but they had something the other species had lost. They refused to let others suffer alone. 6 months had passed since the emergency meeting on Mars. The Olympus shipyard, once used to build simple cargo vessels, now looked like a massive factory of war. Hundreds of new ships grew in the construction bays like metal flowers blooming in space. General Kim Woo-jin stood on the observation deck watching workers install Kelhari crystal arrays into the hull of the newest battleship. The crystals glowed with soft blue light, pulsing like slow heartbeats. The integration is still causing problems, reported Chief Engineer Park Yoonji. Human technology and Kelhari technology don't want to work together naturally. What kind of problems? The crystal arrays need operators who can think in harmonic frequencies. Normal human brains can't do it. We need people who are willing to undergo neural modification. Wu Jin frowned. How dangerous is the modification? Dr. Lim Soo-young's team has been working on it for months. The success rate is now 60%. And the 40% who don't succeed? Park Yoonji looked uncomfortable. Some die. Others survive but lose parts of their humanity. They can operate Kelhari technology, but they think differently afterward. Like they're half alien. How many volunteers do we have? More than we expected. Over 3,000 people have signed up. They know the risks, but they want to help. Wu Jin nodded. Humans always surprised him. When faced with danger, most species ran away. Humans ran toward it, especially if someone else needed help. In the medical section of the shipyard, Dr. Lim Soo-young prepared another volunteer for neural modification. The volunteer was a young pilot named Young Hyuk. He lay on the medical table looking nervous but determined. Are you sure about this? Dr. Lim asked. We've explained the risks. My sister was a miner on Kepler Station, Hyuk replied. She was one of the people who died when the Vortani attacked. If this helps save others like her, then yes, I'm sure. Dr. Lim activated the modification chamber. Kelhari crystals lowered from the ceiling, surrounding Hyuk's head with gentle light. The process would take 6 hours. Either he would emerge able to interface with alien technology, or he wouldn't emerge at all. Monitor his brain activity carefully, Dr. Lim told her assistant. If the patterns start to destabilize, shut it down immediately. Meanwhile, on Mars, Kang Minho worked with a team of scientists to decode more Kelhari knowledge. The alien memories in his head were vast, but organizing them was like trying to sort an ocean into bottles. I'm getting something about long-range communication, he told Dr. Yoon Hyun. The Kelhari have devices that can send messages instantly across the galaxy. How is that possible? Quantum entanglement on a massive scale. Their crystals can be bonded in pairs. When one crystal vibrates, its partner vibrates the same way, no matter how far apart they are. Dr. Yoon wrote quick notes. If we can build these communicators, we can coordinate rescue operations across dozens of star systems simultaneously. There's more, Minho said. The Kelhari memories include the locations of hidden Kelhari populations. And something else. They know where other species are hiding too. How many other species? At least 6. Maybe more. There's a group of aquatic beings called the Tide Callers hiding in ocean worlds near the galactic core. A species of living energy beings called the Star Whispers hiding inside nebulae. Others, all of them running from the Vortani? All of them. And all of them slowly dying out because they're too scared to fight back. Dr. Yoon looked at the star maps floating above Minho's desk. Red zones marked Vortani-controlled space. Yellow. Zones were under attack. The few blue zones looked very small and isolated. Minho, what makes you think we can succeed where all these other species have failed? Minho was quiet for a moment. Because humans are angry about this. Really angry. And when humans get angry about injustice, we don't stop until we fix it or die trying. In the training facilities of Luna Base, Captain Oh Jae-min put new recruits through combat exercises designed around Kelhari memories of Vortani tactics. The recruits wore special suits that could interface with Kelhari technology. Remember, Jae-min called out during a simulation. The Vortani hunters track life energy, not heat or movement. The Kelhari suits can hide your life signature, but only if you stay calm. Panic and they'll find you instantly. Sergeant Bae-min-soo raised his hand. Sir, how do we stay calm when facing creatures that eat people's souls? By remembering why we're out there, Jae-min replied. Every Kelhari we save might have knowledge that helps us save more. Every survivor we rescue weakens the Vortani's harvest. And every successful mission proves that the galaxy doesn't have to surrender to these monsters. The simulation started. Holographic Vortani hunters materialized in the training room. The recruits had to sneak past them and reach a group of simulated Kelhari survivors. Most of the recruits failed in the first few minutes. Their life signs, flaring with fear and alerting the virtual hunters, but a few succeeded. They moved like ghosts. Their enhanced suits working with Kelhari technology to make them nearly invisible. When they reached the survivors, they used harmonic signals to communicate, just as Minho's memories had taught them. Better, Jae-min said after the exercise. But the real thing will be much harder. Back at Olympus Shipyard, the first modified battleship was ready for testing. Admiral Park Seung-wan stood on the bridge, watching the crew prepare for departure. Half the crew were normal humans. The other half were the volunteers who had survived neural modification. Lieutenant Cho Minji was one of the modified humans. She sat at the Kelhari control station, her hands resting on crystal interfaces. When she touched them, lights flowed through the ship's systems like living things. Crystal array online, she reported. But her voice sounded different now. More musical, like the Kelhari themselves. Navigation crystal responding, called another modified human from across the bridge. I can sense the harmonic paths through hyperspace. What does that mean? Admiral Park asked. It means we can travel faster and more accurately than any human ship before, Minji explained. The Kelhari don't navigate by stars. They navigate by the music that matter makes as it moves through space. Show me. The ship jumped to hyperspace. But instead of the usual rough ride, the journey felt smooth and peaceful. Through the windows, space looked different. Streams of light connected distant stars like a vast web of music made visible. How fast are we going? Park asked. Twice as fast as our best ships, reported the navigation officer. And we're using half the energy. This changes everything, Park said quietly. But the real test came when they dropped out of hyperspace near an asteroid field where long-range sensors had detected possible Kelhari energy signatures. As they approached, Vortani hunters emerged from hiding among the asteroids. Battle stations, Park ordered. The Vortani ships looked like giant insects made of dark metal. They moved in strange patterns, like they were dancing to music only they could hear. Weapons online, called the tactical officer. Wait, said Lieutenant Cho. I'm reading something. The Kelhari crystals are resonating with the enemy ships. What kind of resonation? Their biomechanical components have a harmonic frequency. If we can match it and then invert it, do it. Cho's hands moved over the crystal controls. The ship hummed with new energy. When she fired the weapons, they didn't shoot normal energy beams. Instead, they projected waves of sound and light that made the Vortani ships shake apart from the inside. Incredible, Park breathed. Their own biology is their weakness. It's more than that, Cho said. The Kelhari technology doesn't just fight the Vortani, it undoes them. It breaks down the forced connection between their organic and mechanical parts. The battle was over in minutes. Where 5 Vortani hunters had been, now there was only debris and some kind of organic material that looked like it was trying to heal itself. Take samples of everything, Park ordered. Dr. Yoon will want to study this. As they prepared to leave, sensors detected movement from inside one of the asteroids. A small ship emerged, clearly Kelhari in design. It approached slowly, sending harmonic signals. They're asking if we're really human, Cho translated. They can't believe humans came looking for them. Tell them we're here to take them home, Park said, all of them. The Kelhari ship docked with their battleship. When the airlock opened, 12 crystal beings floated inside. They moved like they were swimming through air, their bodies glowing with surprised happiness. The leader approached Admiral Park and spoke in musical tones. Cho translated. He says his name is Conductor Vale. His group has been hiding here for 60 years, watching their people die one by one. He wants to know why humans are willing to fight for strangers. Park thought about the question. Tell him that's just what humans do. When we see someone suffering, we try to help. It doesn't matter if they're human or not. Vale listened to the translation and made a sound like wind chimes crying with joy. He reached out and touched Park's hand, sharing a brief vision of what the galaxy could become if the rescue succeeded. In the vision, Park saw ships filled with survivors from dozens of species. He saw the red zones on the galactic map slowly turning blue as life returned to dead worlds. He saw the Vortani hunters fleeing as their harvest was disrupted. But he also saw the cost. Thousands of human ships destroyed. Millions of brave people who would never see Earth again. 18 months after the first rescue mission, the war had spread across half the galaxy. Captain Song Minwoo stood on the bridge of the Liberation Fleet flagship, watching his tactical display show the results of Operation Starlight. 12 star systems had been hit simultaneously. The results were mixed. Report from Altair Prime, called Communications Officer Lee Jiwoo. Captain Nam's team successfully evacuated 2,000 Kelhari from the Crystal Caverns, but we lost 30 ships to Vortani bioweapons. Minwoo winced. 30 ships meant 900 human lives. Each rescue mission seemed to cost more than the last. What about the Rigel system? Commander Ryu reports complete success. 800 Star Whisper entities evacuated from the nebula fields, only light casualties. And Vega? Jiwoo's face darkened. No response from the Vega rescue team. Last transmission was 6 hours ago. That meant Captain Kim Seonjung and her entire squadron were probably dead. Another 1,000 humans who had volunteered to save strangers and would never see home again. Sir, called scanner operator Yang Minkyu, I'm detecting massive Vortani fleet movement. They're not just responding to our raids anymore. They're attacking human colonies directly. On the main screen, red dots showed Vortani hunter fleets moving toward Earth's outer colonies. The war had escalated beyond rescue missions. Now it was total warfare. Get me Admiral Park, Minwoo ordered. Admiral Park's face appeared on the communication screen. Behind him, the command center on Mars looked like organized chaos. Officers ran between stations, coordinating battles across dozens of star systems simultaneously. Admiral, the Vortani are targeting our colonies, Minwoo reported. Tau Ceti, Proxima, and Kepler 438 are all under attack. I know, Park replied grimly. They're trying to force us to choose between defending our own people and continuing the rescue operations. What are your orders? Park was quiet for a moment. We don't abandon the rescue missions, but we also don't abandon our own colonies. We're going to have to split our forces. That will make us weaker everywhere. Yes, but that's the price of doing what's right. On the planet Prometheus 7, in the Shattered Ring system, a different kind of battle was taking place. Sergeant Lee, Young-ho led a stealth team through underground tunnels, following Kelhari survivors who had been hiding on the planet for decades. Young-ho was one of the first humans to undergo neural modification. The process had changed him in ways that sometimes scared him. He could hear thoughts that weren't his own. He could sense life energy from miles away, and sometimes late at night he dreamed in harmonic frequencies instead of words. "The Vortani super harvester is directly above us," whispered Corporal An Jinsu. "Sensors show it's the size of a small moon." Young-ho looked up through the tunnel ceiling as if he could see through the rock. His modified senses could feel the massive creature feeding on the planet's surface. It was converting entire forests into life energy, preparing the planet for the great consumption. "How many Kelhari survivors are we here for?" asked Private. "Koji Jung, 17, Young-ho replied. "The last survivors from a population that once numbered in the millions. They found the Kelhari hiding in caverns deep underground. The crystal beings were old and tired, their light dim with despair. When they saw humans, they couldn't believe it at first." "You came for us?" asked their leader through harmonic speech that Young-ho could now understand directly. "After all this time, someone finally came? We're here to take you home," Young-ho said, "but the super harvester above us. It will detect any ship that tries to leave the planet." Young-ho smiled grimly. "Let us worry about that." The plan was insane, but it was the only way. Captain Nam, Jiwan's squadron would allow themselves to be partially consumed by the super harvester, then activate Kelhari harmonic bombs from inside the creature. "Remember," Nam told his pilots, "the biomechanical nature of the harvester means it will try to digest our ship slowly. We'll have maybe 10 minutes inside its stomach before the bombs need to be triggered." "What if we don't survive the explosion?" asked Lieutenant Park Hyun-soo. "Then we don't survive. But those 17 Kelhari will live, and they carry knowledge that might save millions of others." The battle began when Nam's squadron flew directly at the super harvester's feeding appendages. The massive creature, thinking it was being offered easy prey, opened its consumption chambers and drew the human ships inside. From underground, Young-ho's team could feel the vibrations as the squadron was swallowed by the monster above them. Then came the waiting. 10 agonizing minutes while brave humans prepared to sacrifice themselves. The explosion, when it came, shook the entire planet. The super harvester's death scream was felt through hyperspace by every Kelhari in the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, one of the great harvesters had been destroyed. "Did they make it out?" asked Koji Jung. Young-ho listened with his enhanced senses. 3 ships, Captain Nam and 2 others. The rest? He shook his head. The rescue was successful. 17 ancient Kelhari were evacuated to safety, but it had cost 7 human ships and 210 lives. Back on Mars, the casualty reports kept coming in. Dr. Han Jisoo worked around the clock to help traumatized survivors cope with what they had seen and done. The war was taking a toll on human psychology that no one had prepared for. "The modified humans are having the worst problems," she reported to the medical council. "The neural changes that let them operate Kelhari technology also make them more sensitive to death and suffering. Some of them can feel it when Kelhari die on distant planets." "Are you recommending we stop the modification program?" "No, but we need to provide better psychological support. These people are carrying burdens that normal human minds weren't designed to handle." Kang Minho entered the medical facility, looking exhausted. The alien knowledge in his head continued to expand as more Kelhari were rescued and shared their memories with him. Sometimes he felt like he was drowning in the experiences of a dozen species. "Minho, you need to rest," Dr. Han said. "I can't. I've just received communication from the Tide Callers. They want to meet with human representatives." "The aquatic species you mentioned? Where?" "Ocean world in the Andromeda border region. But there's a problem. The entire system is surrounded by Vortani patrol fleets. Getting there will require our largest operation yet." "How many ships are we talking about?" "All of them. Every ship we have, plus several new fleet groups that aren't finished construction yet." Dr. Han sat down heavily. "Minho, we're already stretched too thin. Our people are exhausted. The casualty rates are climbing every month." I know, but the Tidecallers claim they have something that could change the entire war. Knowledge about the entity that's behind the Great Consumption. Maybe even a way to stop it. What kind of knowledge? I don't know yet. They'll only share it in person, and only if we prove we're serious about fighting the Vortani to the end. That evening, Admiral Park called another emergency council meeting. The same people who had voted to begin the rescue operations now looked older and more tired. The war had aged everyone. The numbers are clear, Park told them. We've rescued nearly 8,000 Kelhari survivors from 17 different systems. We've also made contact with 4 other refugee species, but the cost has been enormous. How enormous? Asked Counselor Chen, though he looked like he didn't want to know. 43,000 human casualties, 120 ships destroyed, and the Vortani are adapting to our tactics faster than we can develop new ones. Commander Cho Ji-won leaned forward. What about the home colonies? How are they holding up? 3 outer colonies have been abandoned. The populations were evacuated deeper into human space. We're essentially trading territory for time. Time for what? For this, Minho said. He activated a holographic display showing the ocean world, where the Tidecallers waited. They claim to have information about the source of the Great Consumption, maybe even a way to stop it permanently. How do we know they're telling the truth? We don't. But if there's even a chance they're right, we have to try. Counselor Chen studied the tactical display. The Vortani patrol fleets around that system would require our entire military to break through. If we commit everything to this mission and fail, Earth will be defenseless. If we don't commit everything to this mission, Commander Cho replied, Earth will be consumed anyway within a few decades. The vote was closer this time, but it passed. 3 weeks later, the largest human fleet in history assembled at the edge of Vortani space. Over 600 ships carrying the best of humanity's warriors, scientists, and heroes. Many of them would not be coming home. Captain Ryu Jinwoo commanded the Guardian fleet, tasked with protecting the ships carrying scientific teams to meet with the Tidecallers. As they prepared to jump into hostile space, he thought about his daughter back on Earth. She was only 5 years old. If this mission failed, she might not live to see her 6th birthday. All ships report ready, his communications officer announced. Then, let's go save the galaxy, Ryu said. The jump into hyperspace felt different this time. Every human in the fleet knew they were flying toward either victory or extinction, but they flew anyway, because somewhere in an alien ocean, creatures who had never met humans were waiting to share knowledge that might save everyone.